Welcome to the NBA Triple Double Show powered by SportsMemo. I'm your host, Ronald Cabang, also known as UCapper on sportsmemo.com. And on Twitter, you can see my handle right there at U_capper. First day of NBA in the books. It was an eventful one. Today, we got 12 games popping off, and Moneyline Matt and I will be breaking down 3 of them. Man, Matt, before we start talking about those games, we got to talk about some promos. Just want to celebrate the start of the season. Obviously, yesterday was the first day, but Sportsman was offering a 7-day NBA package for only $49 on both Wager Talk and Sports Memo. No limit to the number of cappers you can use on this as well. I don't think there's a promo needed either. So, if you want to look at myself or Moneyline Matt on our website for those 7-day packages, head over there after the show. Also, another one, if you're looking for season-long NBA packages instead, you can get $100 off any NBA season package with promo code NBA100. That's another one you can look for season-long packages. 2 of our $2 Tuesday handicappers are still live. Mine is popping off today. Jesse the Iceman Shul has an NFL play this week for this weekend. Like I said, man, Sportsman was always dropping great promos. Just head over to the site after the show today. With that said, Matt, day one in the books. We had Boston and Philly. We had Lakers and Golden State. I know from the side and total perspective from our Monday show, we did pretty good. The props didn't go as planned, though. Hopefully, we can get that back today. How was your first day of NBA betting?
First day wasn't too bad. I did have the 76ers. I had a unit bet on the Philadelphia 76ers, which they obviously lost. I thought Embiid would do a little more in the paint. It took him a little while to get going. And honestly, Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown, showed once again why they're potentially the best duo in the entire NBA, both having 35 points. And one thing I will say, though, is I was very impressed with James Harden. I liked how aggressive James Harden was. He looked like he was kind of getting back to his old self. But all in all, I did have the 76ers 1-unit play, and I took LeBron James over 25 points for a 2-unit play. So ended up probably like up 0.4 units, 0.3 units. Nothing crazy, but still a positive day nonetheless.
Yeah, I had both I had the 76ers to win and cover, and then I had the over, so kind of 1-1 there. It was tough. I mean, Boston, like you said, with Brown and Tatum, they really put together a great game and hit tough shots, especially Tatum in that third quarter. Boy, he lit it up. Obviously you got to give credit to them because they hit 56% of their shots.
Yeah, what are
The
you
tough
gonna do?
3-pointers that came through in that third quarter as well is kind of like what did Philly in. They couldn't come back from that. They had some open shots, just couldn't make them.
Yeah, and when Grant Williams is hitting those corner 3-pointers and, 3-pointers at the end of a shot clock, it's going to be a tough night. He's one of those guys where you kind of depend on him to maybe hit one, maybe, but when he's hitting 3-pointers, it's going to be a tough night for the opposing team.
Yeah. Another thing too for Philly, I like the aggressiveness of Harden as well. I think Tobias Harris, I think he's one guy that probably could have made those shots, the 3-point shots on the wing. He's typically that guy that's there. PJ Tucker got some opportunity there as well. I think the offense for Philly is going to come around. Yesterday, just, they shot 50%. It's not like they struggled.
Yeah.
It's just Boston was the better team yesterday. The Warriors, I kind of went as planned, right? We were talking about the Warriors to cover that spread there. I mean, the Lakers looked like they were in shambles. What are your thoughts on that team for now?
Yeah, I'm right with you there. I didn't pull the trigger on the Warriors. Like I said, I kind of wanted to see it first, and definitely early on, I wished I had pulled that trigger because, the Warriors looked like the same team last year. They looked like that championship caliber team. Every single player was flowing. They really show how deep they are. It's so rare that you have someone like Steph Curry who can create his own shot and have those daggers. But then a team to have someone like Klay Thompson doing it, Jordan Poole doing it, Andrew Wiggins doing it. When you're the opposing team that is so deflating, when you have a good defensive stand, and at the end of a shot clock, someone just takes a step back, puts up a 3, and just wets it. That is so deflating.
Yeah.
And this LA Lakers team, we're going to see the same thing as last year. We are going to see the same exact thing as last year. This team has no shooting. They're putting a ton of pressure on LeBron James, Russell Westbrook, Anthony Davis. Wouldn't be surprised if Anthony Davis overworks himself once again, gets hurt. This team has no depth. Definitely going to be a team that I'm looking to fade throughout the season.
100%. I definitely agree with you there. Man, with that said, we got 3 games on on today's show. Pelicans, Nets. We got the Knicks and Grizzlies, and then we got the Mavericks and Suns. First off, Pelicans and Nets. This one is, obviously Zion's the big news here coming back. And, on the other side, you got Ben Simmons coming back. Matt, how are you looking at this game?
So for this game, if I were to go one way, I would definitely be looking at the New Orleans Pelicans. I'm a big fan of the New Orleans Pelicans. I love their starting 5. I think their depth is only improving year in, year out. And this is a team that a lot of people sleep on, in the play-in tournament. This was a plus 500 team to get in the play-in tournament and make the playoffs, and they did end up doing that. So, a team that is somewhat underrated in my eyes, their starting lineup is C.J. McCollum, Brandon Ingram, Herbert Jones, Zion Williamson, and Jonas Valanciunas. And in this game, I actually think Jonas Valanciunas will be able to kind of do what he wants a little bit. The Brooklyn Nets do struggle sometimes in terms of big men. And this is a Pelicans team that has shooters all over the place. With CJ McCollum, he can create his own shot, make his own shot. Brandon Ingram can create his own shot, make his own shot. And then you have 2 guys like Zion Williamson and Jonas Valanciunas who can just completely dominate and handle that paint. Now, when you're looking at the Brooklyn Nets side, they're already coming into this season with some injuries. They don't have Joe Harris. They don't have Seth Curry. They don't have TJ Warren, who are 3 guys who are key shot makers, maybe the 3rd option, 4th option, 5th option, something along those lines. So when you look at this team, you're once again going back to last year's playoffs. It's going to be Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving taking every single shot. And we already saw that's not a recipe for success. And with the New Orleans Pelicans, I think they're only improving. I think their starting 5 is, now that Zion Williamson has been put in, they're able to create some synergy. They're able to get out there and flow together a little bit more. When, as for the Brooklyn Nets, they inserted Ben Simmons. Their lineup is changing every single week because of injuries, because of additions, things of that nature. So because of that, I like the New Orleans Pelicans here at +3.
I like that look a lot. You touched on a lot of key parts, especially Joe Harris, the importance of Joe Harris and Seth Curry to this offense, being able to rely on those guys to shoot the three-pointer, especially when you, like you said, insert Ben Simmons into this lineup, who can't do that, right? He's more of someone that's going to penetrate and dish the ball. And then you have, ball dominant guys like Kyrie and Kevin Durant. This offense right now, and especially during the preseason, you can see they still need a little bit of more time to click offensively for that starting lineup that they're using. And one thing that they struggled with last season, and it looks like they didn't really do much to change it, is rebounds and turnovers, right? Those are little things in the NBA that you need to do to get the wins. And right now they really haven't shown that they've improved on those spots. I'm going to talk about this game a little bit more later on my best bet segment. But I like your look here. I agree with Zion and Jonas kind of being those guys in the paint to control it, right? No defensive rebounding means guys like Zion and Jonas are going to be down in the post. Offensive rebound putbacks. I mean, these are little things that you got to look at in the NBA. It's not all about stars anymore, right? Yeah. Look at putting teams together like they did 5 years ago, right? 3 NBA All-Stars on one team. It doesn't work anymore. You actually have to create depth and a group of role players that do their job well. And that's what a lot of the more successful teams now are doing. They kind of beat out the superstar, trios of what we've seen a few years ago. With that said, let's move on to the next game. I'll come back to this Pelicans one on my best bet, but Knicks and the Grizzlies. This one's an exciting game. I think the Grizzlies, they're a tough, resilient, exciting squad. John Morant, I think I said this before on the show, he's my favorite player in the league. He's just so exciting to watch, and the way he plays is amazing. The one thing, though, is they're missing some key guys here to start the season. Jaren Jackson, Zaire Williams, even Danny Green is someone that could be a capable role player. And then Dylan Brooks is going to be doubtful tonight. John Morant, Desmond Bain, incredible backcourt duo. I think they're gonna to step it up a lot this season. I talked about in the future show how I believe in John Moran and his opportunity to make his name known this season as an MVP candidate. And it's games like this where he has to show up when there's nobody else available, right? Dylan Brooks is gone, Jaren Jackson is gone. Desmond Bain, like I said, he's going to take a step up, but John Morant is the leader of this team. Knicks, I feel like they improved. You know what I mean? Basically, just solely off of continuity, and then they picked up Jalen Brunson, a reliable starting point guard. I think this team has a pretty solid bench. Quickly, Rose and Toppin being the key guys there. With that said, I'm still not sold on this team. Their preseason numbers, I feel like, are inflated based on, the opponents they played. Played the Pacers twice. I think the Pistons, and then who I forgot who they played the last game. Maybe the Magic or something like that. But no team really was much of a threat, to be honest. One thing that was impressive was the overall improvement of RJ Barrett. He looked really comfortable shooting the three ball in the preseason. He shot 50%, 12 out of 24 attempts. And that's going to be a big thing if the Knicks are going to be successful this season. But to me, as of right now, like I said, I'm not sold on this Knicks team. I think the defensive numbers from the preseason were misleading because of their opponents. Grizzlies, they love to start off games strong. Last season, the Grizzlies averaged nearly 30 points per game in the first quarter. I know the Grizzlies will play with pace. Last season, the first quarter team total over was an extremely profitable trend. And I think that's the only way that I can go in this game here. I just want to make sure I kind of I watch the Knicks before I start playing spreads and full game totals and things like that. But Grizzlies, first quarter team total over, I'm going to go with that one. Matt, how are you looking at this game?
Yeah, I'm very similar with you on this game. This is not a game that will be in any of my official plays or anything along those lines. When I first looked at the line, it was at, I believe, +6.5, and I thought that was somewhat intriguing, but it's come down to +4, I believe, because of some of the injuries that you mentioned on the Memphis Grizzlies side. But when talking about the New York Knicks, like you said, I believe they are a much improved team. You know, anytime you add someone like Jalen Brunson, who can create his own shot, he can get to the basket, he can dish the basketball. You know, he's around an 18 point per game guy. And in terms of starting five, you know, the New York Knicks really do have a solid lineup. You know, it's Jalen Brunson now, Evan Fournier, who's kind of a spot up 3-point shooter, RJ Barrett, who I believe will lead the team in scoring this season. I think he'll be around the 22, 23, 24 point mark. Julius Randle, who we need to see an improvement from Julius Randle this year. He had a down year last year. I think he needs to get back to being himself. And then Mitchell Robinson running that five. So again, a starting five that should be able to essentially compete with anyone. And then you go and you look at Emmanuel Quickly, Derrick Rose, who is back from injury, and then Obi Toppin. I do think they have somewhat of an edge in this game from the bench perspective. You know, the Grizzlies are going to be sending out Tyus Jones, John Gonchar, Brandon Clark, and Xavier Tillman. So I think they will have somewhat of an edge here. It's going to essentially come down to what those starting fives do. So for me, this game is a fade. If I were to go anywhere, I actually think I would side with the Knicks here with the +4. Opening night, I think they have a good starting lineup. I think they have a pretty solid bench. And even if they get down, I think they could potentially depend on Quickly and Derrick Rose to bring them back. So I'm going to side with the Knicks here if I were to do anything, and I'll take that +4.
Yeah, man, that's an interesting look. I mean, that's the reason why I kind of stayed off is a lot of the reasons that you said. But one thing I feel like the Grizzlies have a huge advantage of is the coaching aspect. I think there's a lot of credit to be given to Coach Jenkins. This Grizzlies team, and if you look at the roster makeup, even from last year and the previous year when they increased their win totals, man, they just do all the little things, right? Like the playing solid defense, not turning the ball over, rebounding. I mean, these are little things, like I mentioned in the previous game, that win games, and it's really credit to Coach Jenkins. But I definitely see an improvement on the Knicks side as well. That's a good look there at the +4. Definitely would have been better at the higher number, but
Yeah. I think yesterday or 2 days ago.
It's crazy. It's crazy. The last game here is, I think, one of the later games, one of the primetime games here, the Mavs and Suns. This one's a tough one for me. I'm kind of conflicted here. Matt, how are you taking this game here?
Yeah, so honestly, for me, this kind of goes back to what we were talking about in the preseason. And I personally actually think the Dallas Mavericks are a worse team than last year. Sure, you're going to have the natural progression of Luka Doncic, should potentially win the MVP this year, leading in a ton of statistics. But once again, I actually think this team got worse. Yes, they get Tim Hardaway Jr. back from injury, but when Tim Hardaway's at his best, he's still not a 20-point per game guy. He's a very streaky shooter. He's a guy who can go out and be a nice complement to Luka, or he can come out and Luka can do everything and Tim Hardaway's shooting 4 for 14. It happens. Reggie Bullock as well, a small forward, just kind of another nice complementary piece. Dorian Finney-Smith, another nice kind of complementary defensive piece. Then you got JaVale McGee at starting center. Yes, Christian Wood and Spencer Dinwiddie are going to be coming off the bench. But again, if Christian Wood is your starting five, there's a lot of defensive issues that come with that as well. Yes, he can stretch the floor a little bit, but that's also if he's making shots. I love Spencer Dinwiddie coming off the bench. I think he attacks the basket well. Again, a very streaky shooter. But he's another guy that's a lot to just be on Spencer Dinwiddie and Christian Wood. Yes, they have Maxi Kleba. Yes, they have Dwight Powell. But those are two guys that, on top of that, they're really just nice complementary pieces once again. And then when you look at the Phoenix Suns, the Suns bring back essentially the same starting lineup with Chris Paul, Devin Booker, Mikal Bridges, Cam Johnson, and DeAndre Ayton. And really, that's kind of all I need to look at there is I like this Phoenix Suns starting five in comparison to that Dallas Mavericks starting five. I would assume you got some revenge in your mind from last year's playoffs. Mm-hmm. And I believe the line is still at -4. So at a -4 look, I do like the Suns there. They're a good free throw shooting team if it does come down to it at the end of the game and come down to free throws. And they also get back a small piece that not a lot of people look at is Dario Saric. And Dario Saric is a nice 5. He's a nice 4. He's someone who can stretch the floor a little bit. He can help you to make some of those shots and create space as well. So I do think he's a key plug-in for this Suns bench coming back. And because of that, if I were to go anywhere tonight, it would be with the Suns at -4.
Yeah, like I said, this is going to be a tough one for me because I actually, my numbers tell me to take the Mavs in this one. But like you said, that revenge motivation on the Sun side without Luka dropped these guys in Game 7 of the playoff series last season. That's a lot of motivation. There's a lot of off court issues as well for the Suns here in the squad, so that could be an issue for Phoenix. Last year, both of these teams were in the top 10 in defensive efficiency. I think the Mavs, based on their current roster makeup, is probably going to be there once again. And they're also probably going to play with one of the slowest paces in the league again. Last season, they were dead last in pace. So they play at a slow pace where it kind of gets uncomfortable for their opponents. Phoenix, I think they were in like the top 10 in pace. So it might be a struggle to really play at that slow pace if Dallas can control it. I think Phoenix's defense is probably going to take a hit a little bit with Crowder out. He brought a lot of physicality and grit to the squad, and no one on the current roster brings that to the table. The Suns' second unit, I feel like, is missing a lot of offense. I don't think Cam Payne is that guy to put up 15 points a game on any given night off the bench. Other than that, you brought up Saric, who's someone that missed a lot of time last season. Maybe he'll be that guy to put up points in the second unit. But it might take some time as well because it's tough to come back with those types of injuries after a long layoff of playing the NBA ball. I mean, like against actual opponents. I mean, practice is a lot different than playing actual games. On the other side, you got Dinwiddie and Christian Wood and some of the other guys that you mentioned who can actually put up points off the bench for Dallas. Outside of the starting five for the Suns, I really don't know where that offense is going to come from. For me, I feel like I'm going to trust my gut here, trust my numbers on this one and look towards the Mavs and maybe even lean towards the under as well. I think there's not a lot of offense coming from this Phoenix team outside of that starting five. So that's the way that I would look in that game. What are your thoughts on, I mean, I know Christian Wood is actually up there for the sixth man award. I think Dinwiddie is on the list as well. Yeah, but you don't really see that. You don't see a 6-man person over on the Sun side. Does that kind of change your outlook on that, or what are your thoughts?
So I mean, this is, if I'm being honest, I'm not going to bet this game. I'm going to lay off. But as you were talking, I do like that under look. I think that's a great perspective and a great way to look at this, because once again, the more that you dive into this, and to your points, I do think both teams could potentially struggle on offense. With the Mavericks side, everything comes down to Luka. Can Tim Hardaway become that guy, that 18-point per game guy? Can Christian Wood come off the bench and make those shots? And then to your point, once again, I think the Suns bench looks dreadful as well. That's why you're talking about Dario Saric, being one of the big guys. Saric is solid, you know what I mean? But you're not really looking to him to be a key point scorer off the bench generally. You know what I'm saying? So I like that look for the under there. I'm still going to stick with my Suns pick, even though it's not official or anything like that. But I'm going to stick with that just for the reason that I like their starting five far more than the Mavericks. And a revenge spot is definitely a real thing in the NBA at home. So I like that. To your point as well, though, there are some offseason issues going on with the Phoenix Suns as well, and that's tough to quantify when looking at point spreads and stuff like that.
Yeah, you know what? I mean, just talking it over, and this is why I like doing shows like this, is because at the end of the day, we're on the same side, right? I think that's gonna talk me off actually betting the side and really just focusing in on that under total. I think that's a good look for the both of us. I love that. And Bill, shout out to Bill McDonald dropping all
I'm liking all this
info, man. He's doing work down there in the chats. If you guys are watching live, drop your stuff in the chats as well. Bill McDonald's doing work. With that said, man, three games down. This is the triple double. This is how it works. Talk about 3 games between 2 solid cappers here in the NBA. Next up is the best bets. For me, I'm gonna go back to that New Orleans Pelicans game and dive in a little bit more. We talked about the importance of Seth Curry and Joe Harris and how they are the 2 key guys that they rely on from behind the arc. And based on the preseason performance from the Nets, it looks like it's going to take a little bit longer for the core guys to get in sync offensively with Ben Simmons in the lineup, because they didn't look good at all. I talked about earlier, rebounds and turnovers were a key part of it. And, unless Ben Simmons becomes a 10-plus rebound guy, the Nets will likely continue to struggle in that category, or in the rebounding category, because they're lacking depth at the center and power forward position. And opposing teams will eat in the paint at that point. Last season, they were dead last in defensive rebounding percentage. We talked about earlier, Zion and Valanciunas are going to be a big part of why the Pelicans kind of stay close in this game, is because of the offensive rebounding and points in the paint. The other thing too is Jonas can actually step out and shoot the 3 ball and take Nick Claxton out of the paint and give Zion more space down low. So they're able to stretch the floor a little bit. The other thing too, I think we touched on the depth of New Orleans. You got McCollum, Zion, Jonas, Ingram, Graham. I mean, that's 5 guys that can put up 20 points on any given night, and one of them is actually coming off of the bench. So defensive-minded players like Herb Jones and Jackson Hayes are the key role players. Alvarado, Larry Nance are also role players who play their role pretty solidly. They just put up 10, 15 minutes a game to be able to make some get some rest for the key starters here. The roster is a lot deeper than it was last season. I think listening to some of the breakdowns on my recent shows, depth is important for the regular season games. And the Nets, I think they're really still trying to figure it out offensively. And to me, the Pelicans plus the points is the right play in my book. They have a squad that can do all the little things that I mentioned throughout the show: rebounding, playing solid defense. They have the length at the guard positions as well to stop Kyrie and any of the bench role players on the defenses on the Nets side. So, to me, Pelicans plus 3 is my best bet of this show. Matt, I want to talk about 2. I got 1 promo. I'll talk about the promos from SportsMemo this earlier on the show. I actually have one of my own. I am SportsMemo's #1 all-time leader in NBA profit after just 2 seasons with them. So they were kind enough to set me up with a nice promo for a full season package. You can get my NBA my NBA plays through the NBA Finals for just over $2 a day. You can use the coupon code BANG200 at checkout for that deal. I think the total is just under $500 for the full season through the NBA Finals. That's my NBA package. Again, that promo code is BANG200. Matt, it's on you. What is your best bet for the show today?
So My best bet for the show today, I think, is going to surprise a couple people because I'm actually rolling with the San Antonio Spurs at +1 against the Hornets. All right. And again, a lot of this might surprise a lot of people, but I like the Spurs for the simple fact that they are far better coached and they're one of the teams that they're better when they can get out and run. And that's what the Hornets do on defense. The Hornets are one of the worst teams throughout the NBA defensively. They're one of the worst teams throughout the NBA in transition defense. Now, DeJounte Murray has obviously been traded to the Atlanta Hawks, and now Tre Jones is going to be leading that team at the point guard position. And Tre Jones is actually he's a quality point guard. He really is. And this is going to be one of those seasons where you can kind of see what he can do. Without DeJounte Murray last season, Tre Jones averaged 12.3 points, 7 assists, and 2.2 rebounds, and that was only on 29 minutes. Now he's going to be leading this team, and they're going to be in a game where they can get out and run. Tre Jones' first option is always to pass. He loves to pass the basketball. He loves to get his teammates involved. And, when you look at the San Antonio roster, it's not the most impressive roster throughout the NBA, but they do have guys who can do different variations of things. Tre Jones, he can penetrate and he can dish. Devin Vassell, he's a spot-up shooter. He can hit those three-point shots. He can also drive a little bit, has a little bit of a mid-range. Keldon Johnson should take a big step forward. He's going to be the team's power forward. He's someone who can slash to the basket. He can shoot a little bit, kind of depending on the night. He's somewhat of a streaky shooter. He's a good rebounder. He's a solid defender. And then you have Jakob Poeltl as well, who's actually a pretty solid 5. Very quality. He can rebound. He can finish around the rim. He has a little hook dump shot a little bit as well. And then their bench is okay with Joshua Primo, Josh Richardson, Dougie McBuckets, all those guys. But now when you look at the Charlotte Hornets, okay, the key thing is LaMelo Ball is not playing. Okay. LaMelo Ball is kind of the heartbeat of that Charlotte Hornets team. And when he's not playing, Terry Rozier takes a lot of the work. Terry Rozier's over-under in this game is 23.5 points. And to put that in perspective, 23 times as a Charlotte Hornet, Terry Rozier has been asked to go over under the 23.5 points without LaMelo Ball. He has only done this 7 times. So that means he's gone over this number at a 28% rate. That also makes me like the Spurs a lot more because they're going to need Terry Rozier to score a lot of points and able to potentially beat the Spurs here. Other than Terry Rozier, they look to Gordon Hayward, they look to PJ Washington, and then they look to Kelly Oubre Jr. on the bench. They're going to be playing a lot of isolation basketball. They're not going to be playing a lot of team basketball, passing to get that open shot. And I like the Spurs to work to get that open shot. Again, they're more well coached. The Hornets have one of the worst defenses throughout the NBA. And I actually like the look of Tre Jones to get that basketball and put it in the hands of his teammates when they're open. Tre Jones over-under in this game is 18.5 points and assists. And I actually love that number because he's averaging around 20 last season on 29 minutes. This game, he should probably see around 34 to 35. He's the only true point guard that the team has. So once again, I like that Tre Jones look at over 18.5, and I'm definitely going to be riding with the Spurs at +1.
Yeah, that's a good look there. I mean, it's tough because you're looking at two of the lower teams in the bottom tier teams in the league.
Mm-hmm.
But if you look at the parity between the two, LaMelo Ball is such a key component to that squad that who's going to run the offense, and you're already missing a key guy in Bridges, who was the benefit or who benefited from playing with LaMelo.
For sure.
And then you got guys like Keldon Johnson, Devin Vassell, and the guy that you mentioned, Tre Jones, on the Spurs squad who really want to make a name for themselves. And then I think Primo is actually a low key component to this team coming off of the bench as well. So I mean, I think the Spurs, as much as Pop talked about how they're going to tank for Victor, I don't think that's the situation here. He's such a professional. They're going to play the way that they play because, that's just how the organization is, right? They play the right way. They play under his system. And against Charlotte, against them with no LaMelo, that might be the way to go.
Yeah, and just real quick, if I can add on to that, If we have any new viewers, I have a big DFS background. So the way that I look at things is essentially opportunity per minute. So when you look at someone like Trey Jones, who's averaging 29 minutes per game without DeJounte Murray, averaging 12 points and 7 assists, you have to assume if you're getting 5 more minutes of play, that's 5 more minutes, and every single one of those minutes has opportunity that goes with it. It's assist opportunities per minute, points opportunities per minute. All of that is added in. So if you're already beating your price at 18.5 with 29 minutes and you're potentially getting 5 more, I love that look.
Yeah, real quick, just to clarify on your best bet for Trey Jones, is that over 18.5 points itself?
Points and assists.
Okay.
And assists.
All right, perfect. So that's 18.5 points and assists. That's definitely, I mean, if you add the assist to it, definitely a good look there. He's going to be leading that offense pretty well. Just wanted to clarify that. Man, that was a good show. Broke down 3 key games of the slate. Obviously, there's 12 games on the board. I'm pretty sure both myself and Moneyline Matt, if you hit us up on Twitter, we'll be able to answer any other questions that you have on any other of the other games. Yeah. We're pretty much an open book here between the two of us, at least. And really excited to get this season going. I mean, yesterday was fun, right? But there was only 2 games today. Everything's going off.
Oh yeah, exactly. One thing that I'm trying to do over at SportsMemo as well is package my plays together. Again, I have that DFS-based background. And, when you're a DFS player and you see that 12-game slate, your eyes widen up. So I'm kind of taking the same approach with, SportsMemo. I'll be doing spreads. And I'm a player prop guy as well. Like I said last night, I had Philadelphia 76ers money line, and then I had LeBron James 25-plus points. So, I'll be doing a little bit of each, and I'll package those together as well, so you have different looks and what you may like and what you may not like.
Yeah, and that's the key reason why a lot of the long-term packages like 7-day, 30-day, and the season-long packages are important, because if you pick off the one-off plays, it's kind of tough, because I mean, as a handicapper, you really have to look at your win percentage long term, right? And sometimes you have a bad luck on a game like the 76ers, where you face a team that just hit tough shots, but at the end of the day, you might have been profitable because you had all these other plays. So that's the way that you really got to think about it from a handicapping perspective. Is winners long term is what's important. That's what we are, and it's documented.
I think that's a great point too, because what people have to understand with the NBA on top of things is things happen. A player pulls a hamstring, it completely changed the outlook of a game. A player can stub a toe. There are so many little intricate details with the NBA that can affect the spreads. So it's about long-term success, day in, day out. And again, I don't think there's anyone better than Ron or myself. And I'm really excited to keep breaking these down, every single NBA slate.
100%. Matt, this is going to be a fun season. With that said, that is the end of the show, guys. Thanks to all who tuned in. Till next time, Friday, same time on Friday, 10 o'clock. Me and Moneyline Matt, once again, we'll see you there.
Yes, sir. And Bill, appreciate all your comments. You're the man.